Director of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, Mr. Mark Gower. So in anticipation of this severe weather, we declared an emergency for all 77 counties to start preparing for this event. But we are experiencing unprecedented cold weather, and that's leading to record demand on our power grid. I just got off the phone with President Biden's Homeland Security Director, Dr. Liz Sherwood Randall. She told me the White House is ready to help and support Oklahomans any way they can as we manage this storm. We are currently preparing a request for a federal disaster declaration. And one thing we'll be asking for is individual heating and energy assistance. This is going to help Oklahomans better afford these spikes in energy costs that will be coming. We're also asking President Biden to consider a national disaster declaration, which would also unlock more federal aid programs for Oklahomans, and our ag community. Yesterday, we asked Oklahomans to do their part to conserve energy, and those efforts are really paying off. The Southwest Power Pool dropped back down to level 2 this afternoon. That's really good news because it should reduce the chance of power interruptions in the future. However, we still need to conserve energy because we aren't out of the woods yet. Please consider turning your thermostat down to 68 or cooler and avoid using large appliances like washers and dryers or your dishwasher. It may not seem like much, but these small steps together can make a big difference. So thanks again, Oklahoma, for doing your part to help us out. And now I want to turn it over to our Secretary of Energy and Environment, Mr. Ken Wagner.
Thank you, Governor, and good evening. So we first became aware of the unique circumstances related to our power in this storm Friday morning. Prior to that, we were aware of some power interruptions as it related to small municipal utilities and some interruption to customer bases. But Friday morning, we saw I hate to use the term unprecedented, but an unseen spike in natural gas spot market prices that were 40 times what we normally see. And that caused some concern. So we got on the phone and started immediately coordinating with Director Mark Gower's Oklahoma Emergency Management, Brandy Reith at the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, along with his commissioners, Chairman Hyatt, Dana Murphy, and Bob Anthony, as well as all of our utility providers throughout the state. And this is our gas providers such as Oklahoma Natural Gas and CenterPoint Energy, the big investor-owned utilities, Public Service Company of Oklahoma, and OG&E, as well as our rural electric co-ops and our municipal providers, the Grand River Dam Authority and Oklahoma Municipal Power Authority. And we were able to determine at that time that the Southwest Power Pool, which governs all of our utility usage and generation in the state, that we were satisfied that we had enough power to get us through at least Monday evening. So in fact, so much so that they kept it at a low level that just was, hey, we have an emergency alert on the system and no question about conservation or curtailments or service interruptions. And so we've been tracking that for days. And Saturday, we started hearing that there might be a tightening of our gas supply because of the unprecedented cold. We're seeing freeze-offs, and we've seen our natural gas production in the state reduced by 2/3, or reduced to 2/3 of its normal production levels. So that began to cause some concern. And yesterday, as you noticed, the governor, in consultation with all of our resources, issued the request of Oklahomans to be good neighbors and help ensure that we don't have residential service interruptions. On Saturday, we also saw that our neighbor to the south, Texas, was experiencing millions of people without power and rolling brownouts, and we wanted to ensure that didn't happen in Oklahoma. So again, the message of conservation went out, and we've seen that today we went to a period where the Southwest Power Pool ordered some small service interruptions or curtailments. But because Oklahomans are good at what they do and they care about each other, the message of conservation took, and we've seen them actually withdraw those orders and reduce from level 3, which means service interruptions, to level 2. And so we're thankful for that, but we have to stay vigilant. We know that on the natural gas side of things, not the power generation side, but providing actual natural gas to the homes, that we're seeing reductions in the amount of gas available on the system. And that's twofold. One, we're seeing freeze-offs at the well where water in lines actually freezes and makes movement of gas impossible. And number two, gas processing plants. So even if you can get the raw natural gas, the gas processing plants are shut down due to freezing. So ONG has focused on reductions of service to its industrial and large commercial customers. They've done that to ensure that you as residential customers don't experience these interruptions that we might have otherwise been talking about, and like they're talking about in Texas. So again, as of today, I know of no immediate jeopardy of service interruptions on the natural gas side, and immediately we seem to be in a pretty good place with our electric generation. But that continues to depend on you taking the lead with conserving energy, turning those thermostats down a couple of degrees, and thinking of your neighbor who's hopefully doing the same. We will continue these discussions with these utility providers, and Brandy and the Public Utility Division have been continual conversations. It's like we've never really hung up. And so those conversations occur at midnight, they occur at 7 in the morning, they occur all day long. And so we'll continue to do that. And with that, I would pass the mic along to Brandy Reith at the Public Utility Commission Division of the Oklahoma Corporation Commission.
Thank you, Secretary Wagner, and thank you, Governor, for inviting us to participate in this critical time. It's very important to the Commission that the public is aware of what's going on, the actions that have been taken, and some of the actions that we're still working on. The Commission has continued to work with our energy providers in responding to this event. As Secretary Wagner said, that really started with the pre-planning phase in preparing for emergency response, and all of the utilities, of course, prior to the storm's arrival, enacted their emergency response plan, had their folks ready to handle outages, brought in extra crews to be on site to ensure that any outages would be as short as possible. And so that's kind of that pre-planning phase that did happen in this storm, as well as having the interruptible tariffs, or basically the contracts with customers that Secretary Wagner spoke of. Those have been critical, and normally those are able to really fill in the gaps of need for a traditional peak that happens on our system. Unfortunately, this storm created such demand, as was mentioned, that new peak has actually been testing the limits of all of the things that are in place to really ensure that that power stays flowing, that gas stays flowing. And so the Southwest Power Pool, as was mentioned, did have to move into a emergency response phase that is always planned for. You know, these are very methodic things. And the goal is to reduce the impact to end users as much as possible while keeping our grids safe so they can provide warmth, heat, and the things that are necessary for life, health, and welfare. And so as they moved into that category 2, that was being done about the same time that the curtailments were happening, or asking large customers to stop usage on the natural gas system. And what I'm happy to report, that at least right now, that we've seen a turnaround in some of those things. You know, as was mentioned, the electric grid was able to stabilize. They were able to bring customers back online. And that is obviously important during these cold weather and the freeze-offs that are happening, that the faster these outages can be brought up, the better. Additionally, the companies have, with the freeze-offs happening, they have stationed CNG trucks around the state to be prepared to fill in for any supply that's needed whenever these system lines are freezing and they can't transport gas the normal way. And so the utilities have responded and have had those in place since prior to the storm and are able to be able to go in and quickly respond. So if you do have outages, still call your utility and report it. But I can assure you that in working with them closely, they have folks stationed ready to react as soon as possible. But if you're like me, any outage is scary in these times. So we do want to hear from you. We want to make sure that every outage is reported and is being handled. So that's very important. The new peak that was hit today, it was what we're calling almost an unmodelable event. Everything that happens on the electric grid, there's models, figuring out how much is going to be needed so everybody can be prepared. And this storm created such demand in addition to the problem of the natural gas not being able to get places that was mentioned, created kind of a perfect storm that everybody has had to respond to. And I've been very pleased with all of the stakeholders that have been able to collaborate on this. The utilities, the Southwest Power Pool was able to get some power imported from our neighboring states that had some excess that was able to help. But today, whenever the emergency event was called, we were roughly 640 megawatts short on power. And I will tell you, it was probably the most excited I've been in a week whenever we heard the news that Oklahomans had been responding and that the conservation efforts were working and the Southwest Power Pool was able to stand down from that emergency level. Like I said, that was the best news that we've heard all week. In addition to those actions, the commission did have an emergency meeting today. And in that emergency meeting, passed an order that would allow a small number of wells that had restricted flow to go ahead and work at full production. And the hope there is that in some of the areas in the state where there are small systems that may be closed off, that some wells may be able to produce extra and be able to help shore up some of those systems while the larger transportation system becomes more stable. So we're hopeful that that is going to be helpful. In addition, we continue to work with the regulated energy providers to look at other issues that may be hampering flow or anything that can be done. Have been able to work very closely with Secretary Wagner and with Office of Emergency Management in coordination of being able to handle some of these issues as they arise. The final thing I would say is that, we are still not out of the woods, as was mentioned earlier. This could turn around on a dime if there's additional weather events. We know that the coldest days that are still coming. We still need people to stay vigilant with those requests because Southwest Power Pool, as quickly as we came out of a tier 3, we could be put back in one, and that could result in outages. So we want to ensure that people are taking those steps that are being mentioned. The 3 biggest that we ask folks to do is to adjust those thermostats if you can. A degree or 2 can make a very large difference in the amount of electricity that is consumed. Stay safe, but put it as low as you can and still stay safe in your home. Unplug unused devices. People don't think about it, but every device you have sitting around your house, if it's plugged in, it can be pulling power. And if you think about the size of Oklahoma and the amount of things that we have plugged in, if we all do our part and go through the house and unplug those, we can have a significant power savings that can assist the system. And then finally, to really moderate the usage of those large appliances. The washers, dryers, dishwashers, we take for granted because it's not something we see actively consuming electricity, like sitting in front of a television or other devices, but they consume such large amounts that if we can reduce that, we see significant savings on the system. And we're basically just asking folks to say, can this wait a couple of days to help a neighbor? And so that's really the message that we're trying to share through our social media. And we just want to say again, thank you to everyone that responded to the governor and to the utilities request to conserve. You made a difference today. And so we just need to keep that effort up. And we believe in you. We're in this with you together and want to say thank you. And with that, I would turn it over to Mr. Gower from Office of Emergency Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reith. Statewide, we've seen heavy snow and record-breaking low temperatures impacting travel, water systems, and life safety as you, Oklahomans, work to stay safe and warm. The Oklahoma Department of Emergency Management and Homeland Security continues to coordinate with your local emergency managers across the state to work to address resource requests for water, heating, sheltering needs, and supporting our first responders out there working in this cold weather. With temporary electric service interruptions still possible across the state, It's a good time to take steps now to prepare for a temporary outage. The use of alternate heating sources during a power outage can cause carbon monoxide to build up and poison people or animals. With temperatures in the single digits, it's now more important than ever to make sure Oklahomans know how to prepare and stay safe if the power goes out. First, gather up flashlights, batteries, and extra blankets in your home and plan to dress in extra layers for warmth. Be especially careful with alternative heating sources such as generators. Be sure it's not running inside your home or your garage, and generators should be placed outside at least 5 feet from any doors or windows to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. You should never burn charcoal or use any unvented gas or kerosene heater in enclosed spaces, and be sure to use proper ventilation with portable propane heaters as well. Keep an eye out for carbon monoxide exposure symptoms that includes headache, dizziness, weakness, sleepiness, nausea, and or vomiting. If you suspect carbon monoxide poisoning, open a door or windows, turn off the gas appliances and go outside and get a little fresh air, and dial 911 if you believe you have carbon monoxide poisoning. I know people are worried about frozen pipes during a power interruption and these cold temperatures. Be sure to let faucets drip and leave cabinet doors open to prevent pipes from freezing. And finally, do what we do as Oklahomans every day. Check on our elderly friends, neighbors, and relatives, and especially those that are living alone.